Even though we are 10,000 miles away from India, we should not forget our roots, our culture, our tradition, and our gods.
Send them back to the reservation, that's what I'll say.
They're not that kind of Indian. You're gonna need that black guy's name for the insurance.
You all right?
Black, brown, yellow. As long as you are not white, you are colored.
That's right.
All us people of color must stick together.
Right on, brother.
Hello?
Mina.
Hey, what you doing Sunday afternoon? How long you been in Mississippi?
3 years. Before that, I was in Africa.
You kidding?
I'm a mixed masala.
Hot and spicy.
How come they got Indians in Africa?
The British brought them there to build a railway. That's how my grandfather came.
I was born in Uganda, my country, until I was forcibly expelled.
This is my home.
Not anybody. Africa is for Africans.
What is wrong with you, man? You better leave them foreigners alone, boy. They ain't nothing but trouble.
We're just friends.
Oh, did I say any different?
What do you know about him?
This is America, Ma. No one cares.
People stick to their own kind.
So you think I ain't good enough for your daughter, is that it?
The world is not so quick to change.
Well, Miss Masala, racism is passed down like recipes. Now, the trick is you got to know what to eat, what to leave on your plate.
Welcome to Movie Umpers. My name is Bob Shim.
I'm Angela.
The sounds you hear may be dogs, like licking tongue sounds, clapping, blocks of wood getting beat to the floor, things like that.
An interesting outfit on today.
Yeah,
sir.
I got my this is new year, new me.
I love it. Comfy.
Yeah, it is comfy. I was just
comfy, cool.
It's a little chilly, so I can do this too. Look.
I think I interrupted you before you introduced yourself.
No, I successfully did that.
Oh, I don't remember.
Yeah. No, we did it.
Yeah,
we did
cool.
the same intro.
Cool.
We do every
Hello,
episode.
I'm here.
Anything else you want to say?
I promise I'm here.
And that's it, folks. Have a good evening.
Thoughts and prayers.
This month, what do you think about that sign-off? How are you feeling about the sign-off?
It just still doesn't roll off the tongue as easily as Death to All Traitors. I think because personally, like, it doesn't mean something. It doesn't have, like, a
Death to All Traitors doesn't mean anything.
Well, but it was from that movie.
But I understand it feels a little off.
So it has, like, so that one had, like, maybe, like, a little sentimental. It doesn't mean anything, but it has, like, a reason of why we said it.
Maybe thoughts and prayers to the haters would be better if someone else was saying it.
Like?
As opposed to us. I don't know, some crazy person online. Maybe we should find some just weird shit and just play that at the end of every episode.
Okay.
I don't know. I guess I'm not married to it as much.
Yeah.
We'll have to figure it out, but we'll stick to it tonight.
Good night and good luck is a taken famous sign
By
off,
Edward
right?
R. Murrow. Well, this month we're talking about a theme we've got called Portraits of the Artists, in which we analyze the films of Paul Robeson and mostly Denzel Washington. And we're hitting up a kind of a deep cut. A lot of people haven't seen this one.
I hadn't.
It had a 30th anniversary re-release not too long ago. This is by Mira Nair. It's called Mississippi Masala from 1991, written by Suni Taraporevala, starring Denzel Washington, Roshan Seth, who we saw in My Beautiful Laundrette, Sarita Chaudhry, which was her film debut. Mm-hmm. We saw her in She Hate Me.
Yes.
One of the girls that was getting impregnated by Anthony Mackie. Sharmila Tagore. Charles Dutton, who... No one remembers that show, Rock?
Them that's got shall have, them that's not shall lose. So the Bible says, and it's still in news. Mama
starring Charles Dutton. No one remembers that show?
I know just what I feel like having for dinner. Stuffed fish.
Oh, come on, Ella. No, stuffed fish is hard. Come on.
Crab meat.
Oh, come on, Ella. No, crab meat is hard, too. Come on, you know I can't cook.
You know how to eat, just work backwards.
Now it's all about The Rock, but once upon a time there was a sitcom on Fox starring Charles Dutton called Rock.
You gonna like this here?
Oh, Eleanor, why did you have to make him cook? I'm an old man. I only have a few dinners left.
The themes this particular week are all about like love and race, and this is made by the same person who made Monsoon Wedding, Mira Nair. You'll notice that you haven't seen a lot of Denzel romantic leads. A lot of times Denzel is compared to, if any other black actor he's compared to, it's not our other guy we are talking about this month, Paul Robeson, but more like Sidney Poitier. Mm-hmm. And Sidney Poitier was could be a strong dramatic lead, but also was rarely a romantic lead.
Yeah.
And there's racist reasons for that. Studios would be pushing back on that idea, so you rarely saw him in that role. With Denzel, maybe the studios pushed back on that as well. I know he did have love scenes with Julia Roberts in The Pelican Brief, but he had them taken out because he had said he didn't want to upset his female African-American audience, who he considers to be a big part of his support.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. But if you really think about it, and I didn't really think about it until after watching Mississippi Masala, is that you don't see romantic lead Denzel like very much at all.
No, not at all.
I guess in his role as Malcolm X, he seemed very devoted, seemed very dedicated, but that movie wasn't about the passion.
No. He had girlfriends and there were love scenes.
Yeah.
Kind of. Not really.
Not really.
Not really,
not
actually.
At all. But in this one, there is love scenes. You chub out a little.
This is a little steamy.
This movie's steamy. Like a fresh biryani just steaming. Like some fried oysters.
Like when you crack open a samosa.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, so this is the film debut of Sarita Chowdhury. And you kind of learn something in this movie in that the British, when they were, rubbing their dick all over Asia and Africa, sent a lot of Indian people to go build railroad infrastructure in Uganda. Mm-hmm. Our female lead and her father were all, even though they're Indian, culturally Indian, were born in Uganda. And we get flashbacks of them being forced to leave Uganda by the Idi Amin regime.
By the time they're being forced to leave, it's been 70 years.
Yeah.
So they've never known another home. And they do well there. And the father is a lawyer, and he actually is most of the time like defending who he considers his black brothers against, whatever, but it just doesn't matter because he's Indian and they want all the Indian people to leave. Idi Amin wants all the Indian people to leave.
They show a scene of Idi Amin and basically explaining like how he...
Asians came to Uganda to build the railway. The railway is finished. They must leave now. I give them 90 days to pack off and go. Asians have milked the cow, but not fed it. Africans are poor. Asians are rich. The Asians are sabotaging the economy of Uganda.
God knows what will happen now.
They have refused to allow their daughters to marry Africans. They have been here for 70 years, but still
the man is a madman.
That caused a lot of ethnic turmoil. Even though all these Indian people several of them were born and raised in Uganda.
Absolutely. He grew up alongside, he had a best friend that he grew up alongside. It came down to the very last day that Indians were allowed to be in Uganda, and he did not want to leave. He was like, this is my home. I've always been here. I'm a Ugandan first, Indian second. This man who he'd grown up with his whole life basically said, like, look, you have to leave. Africa is for black Africans. Mm-hmm. You have to go. And he said to him, so then that's when you find out.
What about North Africa?
One of the, I don't know, I guess I didn't care about that. But Uganda is for black Africans at that point is what they were saying. But it wasn't that he wanted his best friend to leave either. He was just worried for their safety because also this dad, he went on television or radio and he did an interview in which he spoke out against
the government.
Yes, the government. And so it's like, they're making all the Indians leave partly because of what you said. And also, like, you definitely have to go because you're the one who said it.
I mean, the animosity was already there.
I think it was like the building of the fire. Like, he threw a log on.
So when all these Indian people were forced to leave, I guess if they didn't go back to India and they decided to venture west, it is also true that apparently a lot of them went to Mississippi because they wanted to go to some place where they could start businesses quickly. And they found that, like, buying shit like motels and operating land space was, out of everywhere, was cheapest in like small town Mississippi.
Yeah.
So it is actually also true that from the fallout of that, there have also been generations of Indians in certain areas of Mississippi. And this is in Greensboro, Mississippi. This is what this story takes place in. So that's it. Like, this is apparently true. Generations of Indians that grew up in Uganda helped to build the railroads, and then several of them moved to Mississippi so that they could buy cheap businesses to start running as soon as they hit the ground in the United States.
But this family in particular first went to England and stayed for a while, and then came to Mississippi, and they did not own their own anything. They live in a hotel of Anil, who is some kind of cousin, right? And he owns the hotel. They live in the hotel and work for him, basically. The mother has a liquor store that she runs, and the daughter cleans the hotel.
Yeah.
I don't know what the dad does. He writes letters to the government of Uganda.
And Greensboro is this small town, but like, I think a lot of people who aren't from the South don't realize that how many black people are in the South. Like, they didn't all just leave post-Civil War. Many did.
Yeah.
But like, Mississippi is a very black state.
Yeah.
Which just goes to show how intense the corruption is based on how the politics pan out there. But, you know, if you just incarcerate people and then take away that inalienable right of voting, then you can control them a lot easier. So, yeah, there's this life here, and this daughter, one day, she borrows a relative's car.
Anil, the guy that owns the hotel.
And accidentally rear ends this carpet
young,
cleaning,
handsome carpet cleaning
man.
man.
And out of this van steps a Mr. Country Boy looking Denzel Washington.
With like a trucker cap and a work shirt. He was hot in this movie.
Yeah, and I mean, he's definitely gets to play up that charisma. You know, he's got the charisma. But I feel like after sitting through this movie that maybe it was by studios or maybe by Denzel's choice himself. I mean, I would say at least later in his career, he had a lot more determination over his personal destiny. Yeah. But we really missed more leading romantic lead Denzel Washington.
Yeah.
Apparently his first name may be pronounced Denzel.
Oh.
But we all call him Denzel. I don't think it matters that much.
Denzel.
Mm-hmm. Denzel. Sarita Chaudhry's character, Mina.
Good Lord. The first time we see grown-up Mina, literally she's in the grocery store and she like flips her hair up and it's like, what? Like, this girl is so hot.
Yeah, she's super fine. She's got to be the finest in this whole town.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And of course we're getting a lot of cultural interactions here. And even like moments of like racism are almost played like it's almost the casual racism we experience in this movie is played more in its comedic absurdity effect.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost comical when you encounter the casual racism. There is strong dramatic moments here. Mm-hmm. There is pointed moments that explain, like, these cultural lines, outrage regarding perception. Yes. But it is interesting how this movie kind of toes these lines. I mean...
Yeah, it's everything from... You know, she is gorgeous. And so there's this rich, eligible bachelor that all the girls want. And he's interested in her, but his mother doesn't want him to marry her because her skin is too dark. So one of the girls actually says that either you, as an Indian woman, you can have a lot of money and dark skin, or you can have fair skin and no money. And she had no money and dark skin. Yeah. And so it was like... nobody's gonna want her, which is literally insane, but we've heard that before. You know, there's that whole like terrible, awful like thing about the black standard of beauty of like being lighter than a paper bag. You know, like we've heard these kind of things our whole lives. Like there's entire areas where women bleach their skin because they're trying to be a certain color. It just makes me so sad. Like it doesn't fucking matter. But there is like even within Indian group and within the black group, like there's like this racism where they almost like don't want Denzel to succeed. Yeah. Because he is a self-made man. He's got this van. He's got his carpet cleaning business. He works with his friend. His carpet cleaning business, while a lot of the Indian people do clean their own carpets, yes. But his carpet cleaning business is kind of reliant on working at a lot of these motels that are yes. Indian run. Because that's a lot of work. Yeah. You know, all those motel rooms. And, you know, there's also the bit about, like, he does have this van, but he has it because the white owner of the restaurant where his father has worked for a really long time put in a good word with the bank for him. Mm-hmm. And it's so slimy and gross, like the way that woman behaves and acts towards Willie Ben, his dad. Yeah. She has it feels very like old plantation. Yeah, white woman slang. It's awful. And you know this town is majority black too. Yeah, but the whole function of the local economy, for whatever's left of it, is probably more centered around these black people and these Indian people than it is about the white people that happen to also control the major center. It's like a mini apartheid or some shit. Mina's father is again played by Roshan Seth. Love him. Since he's been forced out and moved to Mississippi, he's been writing letters to the Ugandan government, because he is a lawyer, to try to appeal to get his land back. And so because he felt like he was wronged by a black culture that he felt like he helped the entire time. But also, well, of course, it takes a long time for the family to figure it out, because Mina keeps it under wraps that they have a relationship, even though they are discovered in Bristol when he takes her down there. But when he meets her at a club. Where she goes with the rich Indian guy. With Harry Patel, who's courting her. And then he ends up dancing with her, and it's very sultry. And he's trying to make someone jealous, but you can tell immediately they're like fucking magnets. Yeah, there's sparks there. And so Harry walks off pissed. But they do have a connection, and he drops her off. And the second time they go out, he brings her to his house, and he has dinner with the whole family. And that's where, you know, we see Charles Dutton, who's like this guy who is like comically overbearing, like trying to hit on her, telling her how hot she is all the time. Trying to steal her from him constantly. But it's so like out in the open and silly. We can meet him at the bar. He also at the bar is like, leave her here, you get out of here. And so, that's like, usually, like, the parents are like, you work up to that, but he's like, why don't you come and eat with my family? Yeah. And that's how she encounters him. It's his dad's birthday. And as Charles Dutton also works with the Denzel's character. And so we get this, early on, we get this scenes where they're talking to people who work in these communities, and the Indian men are like, you know, if you're not white, you're a person of color, so we all need to stick together. Yeah. Of course, there's not a lot of sticking together when people realize that certain people are dating certain people. Yeah, and it just seems like this sense of convenience to throw that out there for the person's hiring people to do certain things and to sound good in a moment. Yeah, well, because when she hits his car, they're afraid that he's going to sue. Yeah, that's their biggest fear. And that's why her uncle goes to him and basically is like, we got to stay together. And they're kind of joking about it, but they're like, all right, dude, all right. You know, we're brothers or whatever. I mean, they kind of go along with it, but they know better that, it explains their true thoughts later on. They realize, each other. Yes, and they realize when he's like, we don't want you to sue my friend, and they're like, okay, we got you, man. You're cool. Exactly. I'm not going to do anything. But he doesn't know at that point that he likes the girl either. The funny thing is, it wasn't even on his mind, but they kept bringing it up. It's like they just
kind of remind, like he never thought about it, and then they're the ones who brought it to his mind and their fear.
Yeah, well, and so he really wasn't gonna, and he invited her to go to Bristol, and she's 24 years old. She's not married. She's been living at home this whole time. You have to assume that she's a virgin, like you're supposed to be till you get married. Maybe she's not.
It's not Bristol. Bristol's
It's
a town
not Bristol.
in
I was
Tennessee.
repeating you.
Biloxi.
Sorry.
No. But before we get to Biloxi,
yeah,
they have a scene where they're talking on a phone.
Oh God.
And they're talking like, "What are you wearing?" and shit like that.
She hasn't got no panties
and
on.
she's like,
"You know what this is?"
Of course.
Well, I was just thinking about you. Thought I'd give you a call. Kind of wishing you were here with me.
I was thinking the same. Wanting to be with you.
What you got on? You in your pajamas?
T-shirt.
Yeah, me too. Guess we got a lot in common now. So, you thought about what I said? As far as going with me to Biloxi?
You know, I'm gonna try.
Yeah.
Demetrius?
Yeah.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah. Anything, baby.
She's covered up, but you can see the blanket like
but it's very
coming
on
off
purpose.
a little bit. You could tell that she's nude from the waist down. And look, this one's a chubber, folks. You'll chub on this one. Did you chub? Yes.
I don't call it that.
Look, we can get more into
This was
the
a very
anatomy here.
steamy
You can
movie.
chub.
This was a steamy. Yeah, okay, I could. This is a steamy movie.
Yes, it is. It's sexy.
It's sexy.
And this is. And I compare this in some sense to My Beautiful Laundrette.
Yes.
One, because there's a lot of Indian actors in it, and Roshan Seth is in it, but also there is like a tone. They kind of match tonally. I think Mississippi Masala kind of leans more into the dramatic, whereas My Beautiful Laundrette it's a gay relationship, but it also deals with these class issues, but never seems to get serious. Mississippi Masala does get a little more serious, but they do have that same kind of sense of whimsy regarding the ups and downs of these ethnicities and cultures like bumping up against each other.
Yeah, and it's interesting to think about that My Beautiful Laundrette story is basically when those Indian folks went into England and did the same thing, like opened laundromats, opened businesses, and were again sort of keeping to themselves, and people thought that they were like better or whatever. But yeah, it's an interesting like thought that it's kind of like that movie is kind of in the middle of this movie. Like when it jumps forward through time, that is just kind of in the middle.
You don't realize, I don't pursue romantic movies, and I think a lot of romantic movies, when people think of that and pursue them, they have a very distinct formula. But this movie and My Beautiful Laundrette, they are romantic movies purely that also feel very different, that have messages, but it never eclipses the romance itself, the passion itself.
Yes.
And when and I find that when I see movies like that, like this, I'm going to be very positive on my review here in that, because I actually really enjoyed this movie quite a bit, that when you really see an actual romantic film work, it's really refreshing.
It is, and it almost feels like a lost. So, because now what you think of a romantic movie, it's like a rom-com, it's like cutesy, it's like a meet cute, and a he said, she said, and a whatever. It's like a Hallmark movie, but any time of the year, little higher budget. But an actual like romantic movie, when I think of romantic movies, I think of older movies most of the time.
Those tend
you're right. These two that you've mentioned,
I do think the older romances are better than the modern ones on average.
Yeah,
I will
absolutely.
agree with that.
Absolutely.
And it might be something of the feeling of another time that might help those, but I'm just not going to see How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days or anything like that. Like Love Actually is a little different than a lot of it, but it's still kind of riding that line.
It is riding that line.
But this one feels different, refreshing.
Yes.
Tonally trying to
Much
set itself
preferred.
apart. And that may be why this movie is basically an unknown for a lot of movie fans, unfortunately. It just so happens that Mina's uncles are vacationing in Biloxi, and they see his van. I mean, he drives this carpet cleaning van with his name all on the side and the business on the side. So they know he's very easy to find, you know.
Yeah, and this part made me so mad because, you know, he and Mina have had this wonderful night, right? Very sexy night. Lots of...
Don't we see his ass pulling his...
He also, like, sucks on her nipple.
Yeah, they have a lovemaking scene.
It.
I don't know if maybe that's a body double. I don't know, but there's some nipple sucking going on.
I don't know, because I feel like you could see her face in that shot, but I don't know. But you see some nipples, and you see his booty, and I missed it because I looked away, but I didn't have you rewind it, but it's fine. I might just watch this movie again later.
It could have been a body double. I'm not entirely sure.
Who knows? But regardless, there's a but.
And some nip sucking.
And some nip sucking. And so it's lovely, this beautiful night. She even had like a nightmare and he like comforted her. Like it's just they're really into each other.
Yeah.
And it's so good. And then these fucking uncles and cousins like bust in the door. And here's the thing, this is where it all went wrong, because they bust in the door and they start like trying to pull her out and like fighting him. Well, he's gonna defend himself, so he starts beating them up.
So then the police show up and
they're
like,
him and her, and it's their hotel room.
Yeah, and it totally fractures the scenario. And because his business is so tied up into these Indian-owned establishments, like a huge swaths of his money are just suddenly gone. Like
because
he's almost out of work.
Dishonor.
They've
dishonored her family.
And we see his father who works at this restaurant, and the father was definitely open to Mina. Like his family wasn't against her, but when it looked like they turned on him, they were like, well, this is how it is, isn't it? Like, don't you know, like this is how this would be. This is how, you know, maybe you just need to kind of figure something else out. And there's also this tone amongst the young people, Denzel and Mina, and even his friend Charles Dutton, who claims to be like an actor who wants to go to LA. Like there is this tone of like there's just nothing more we can really do in this town, especially if they're going to just take things away from you like this. And so it's one of those small town movies that it's like, and it's hard to say because, you know, in a way, sometimes there's just nothing more a certain individual can do in certain places.
It's just interesting because when Charles Dutton is saying that he's going to leave, Denzel kind of looks down on that. He's like, what good does it do if you go?
Yeah.
You know, kind of that, like you and I've had that conversation. You know, we do live in the biggest city in
our state,
like the most progressive city in the state.
Yeah, it doesn't take much, but yeah.
It doesn't take much, but sometimes, I mean, we have had those conversations like, should we just get the fuck out of here? And it's always like, I mean, our friends are here, our family is here, but also, what does going somewhere else solve, really? You know,
it's
like
just to like you're just trying to like figure out your own peace of mind, but you're just going into your own illusion.
Yeah, but in this particular instance, you know, he at first, you know, says to Charles Dutton, like, you don't need to leave, like, just, you know, we could figure it out. But then when all this shit goes down and they basically have ruined him, there is nothing for him to do because it's not like he can get new clients. Everyone knows. And to the point where then, you know, Anil kicks them out of the hotel.
Yeah.
Because, I guess because the guy's going to sue them. I don't remember how it goes, but he's like, you have to fucking leave. Because he's made
it hard for him. But, well, then he he contacts a lawyer so he gets that ball rolling again. Mainly because he's trying to rustle up, you know, the shrubs to try to get into contact with Mina again.
Yeah, like they won't let him talk to her. Like he even goes to the hotel and her dad comes out and talks to him and is like, look, I used to be like you. I used to have hope.
This is a good scene.
Mina is free to love anyone, to live as she chooses. I respect her freedom. But that does not absolve me of my responsibility as a father.
Well, no disrespect to you, sir, but she's a grown woman and we care for each other very much. Now, I think that's all there is to it.
You know, once I was like both of you. I thought I could change the world, be different. But the world is not so quick to change. Mina is my only child. I don't want her to go through the same struggle as I did.
Also, Roshan Seth finally got a response saying that he can come and challenge for his property in Uganda. He was the progressive, the great integrator, the guy who's trying to help people in Uganda, the native people of Uganda. But then he comes here and he's embodying more of this stick with your own that forced him and his family to leave the country he was born in.
Yeah, he's now part of the problem.
And so Denzel, and I'll post, it's a great scene, I'll post it. Denzel's basically like,
Struggle. Look, I'm a black man born and raised in Mississippi. Ain't a damn thing you can tell me about struggle.
What do you know about my...
No, I know. I know you and your folks can come down here from God knows where and be about as black as the ace of spades, and as soon as you get here, you start acting white and treating us like we your doormats. I know that you and your daughter ain't but a few shades from this right here. That I know.
There's also a part earlier on that I really thought was very interesting where Mina and her father are having dinner. And he says to her, you should be in school. You shouldn't be washing toilets. Like, this is not the life I wanted for you. And she looks at him and she's like, there's nothing wrong with cleaning bathrooms.
Yeah.
And that's the truth.
Yeah.
Like, we've talked about this so many times. Like, we need people at all levels.
Yeah, which...
You know, like, if you don't have people to clean toilets and take trash, you're gonna crumble.
Yeah. There's still so much of that we need to shake off, this idea that some jobs are beneath us. No, the jobs that should be beneath you are the jobs in which you're destroying, looming over people. No one's more worthless than the majority of middle management at any job. Like, those are the meaningless jobs, not the guys that's sanitizing your bathrooms and cleaning your homes.
I would argue that a lot of times middle management's getting the work done, and it's the high ups that...
Oh, she has a personal bias there, I think. No, you're right.
No, there's good people at every level.
The middle management just got to take. They got to take it on the neck where the higher ups won't, and then the ones under the middle management got to take it on the neck where the middle management.
Well, and there are some people who there's always abuse of power at every level.
That's true.
So
they're getting ready to leave to Uganda, and Mina's like, "Look, I'll be right back," and steals her uncle's car again and goes and finds him, and he's resistant at first, like because he's lost kind of everything.
Yeah.
And he's thinking about leaving town. And when they were together, at times they talked about seeing the world together, not being very nice to each other. And then she accuses him of trying to using her to make someone jealous, which he was at first.
Anyway, your nightmare's over. I just came to say goodbye. I'm moving back to Africa.
Wait a minute. All right, I admit at first well, she was with that guy, and I never thought I would fall in love with you.
What are you gonna do now?
Well, Tyrone went to Los Angeles and thinking about going somewhere, I guess.
Demetrius, can I come with you?
What?
Can I come with you?
And they contact their families being like, we're not coming back.
it's also so interesting when he was like, I think I'm gonna go, and she's like, can I come with you? And he's like, where? She's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But you're thinking about going. Let me come with you.
Yeah.
And then it became real. I
was worried that they wouldn't end up together.
Me too.
So I was like happy that they did.
The father does go back to Uganda.
Yeah.
And
He goes,
their house is in ruins.
Mm.
He goes to try to find his friend that he grew up with and finds out that that friend actually died like the year after they left.
Yeah.
He'd been writing him letters.
He just maybe thought he was being ignored, but he'd been writing a friend that had died. Like,
and he didn't tell his wife or his daughter that he was writing all those letters either. I think it was Okello, because his daughter was like, you didn't talk to him, whatever. But he really did try to reach out. But yeah, his friend had passed away, and he calls his wife, or he writes his wife a letter, and he basically says, home is where the heart is.
The parallels of the dad's hopes and dreams and what he wants, and the him seeking the justice, in contrast with the environment in this small Mississippi town, seeing how justice is met and what happens, the stories here move so seamlessly, so smoothly. It's really well executed, well done. And this is Mira Nair, who directed Monsoon Wedding and some other ones. She's, probably at a time in which you could do it maybe a little easier than nowadays, showed some real chops in getting some independent films put together. And this is just a fine example of an independent film.
And the father doesn't say at the end, how wrong he was about Denzel, but, he's back in Uganda, and he goes to this group of people, and there's this beautiful woman dancing in the middle of everyone, and this little child reaches over and touches his face, and he puts his arms out, and then he just is holding this child. And it actually reminded me, it was that desperation of him holding that child, because it's almost in that moment he was grieving his friend, grieving what he had, how much he had changed. All of that. And it reminded me of how you talked about, the desperation in which, in, It's a Wonderful Life, that Jimmy Stewart's, holding that child. Yeah. In that moment, it's just,
he's embracing the future.
Nothing matters. Yeah. Nothing else matters besides this.
He's embracing going forward, whatever that path may be.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's some good stuff. It's too bad we don't have more romantic lead Denzel. I mean, if fucking Clint Eastwood is doing, Bridges of Madison County shit when he's old, we can get some older Denzel making some romantic moves. He was sexy in this. He was chubbing me out in this. Him and Mina. This is a good movie. If y'all have not heard of this, then go seek it out.
Seriously, watch it.
It's actually on YouTube. It's been free on YouTube for years, apparently. We bought it, but
I'm glad we own it.
It wasn't very expensive. You can find good deals on DVDs that are of a certain time, but yeah, apparently it is on YouTube. I'll post a link on the show notes, but let's give our review. 1 through 5. You're gonna give 1 through 5 combined for best out of 10. I'll go first.
Okay.
I love this movie. I thought it was fantastic. I'm gonna match the score I gave for Malcolm X, 4.25.
That's what I was gonna say.
So this is an 8.5.
Yes.
Check it out. That is an easy A right here in the 8.25s or 8.5. I mean, it's sharing the ranks of movies like Fox and His Friends, Nightcrawler, Akira, The Holdovers, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, The Searchers, What's Eating Gilbert Grape. It's at least as good as those movies. And who knows, we've shuffled some ratings around. I could push this closer to a 9 if on a good day. I really do think this movie is a hidden gem, well worth your time. I think they put out a Criterion version of it a couple of years ago.
I wouldn't be surprised. So, it's really good.
Yeah, and I'm kind of interested in Mira Nair's other films too. If she's kind of got that, showing such depth of character here. I know Monsoon Wedding is a pretty well regarded movie. So yeah, and we actually own it. We just never watched it, but we own the DVD. So yeah, we own 2 Mira Nair movies. We just need to get around to watching the other one. So, but that's that. Mississippi Masala is an 8.5. It's a very good score. Have you seen this movie? Do you like it? Click on the link in the show description, and you can actually watch this movie. And it is good stuff. A nice offbeat, sexy romance. Rare Denzel romantic lead. It will chub you out. And ladies can chub too, not just men. So check the show notes for links and other places to find us. Like and subscribe. We will be talking about Denzel Washington movies. We got at least 4 more. At least 4 or 5 more. Yeah. So I guess we're still thoughts and praying, I guess, right?
Sure. Thoughts and prayers to the haters.
Thank you for being the hater you've been in my life.